Hey, how's it going, folks? So, please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Jaiprakash from TCS. Jaiprakash is an offering lead in the global IT infrastructure and hybrid cloud practice in the EGG unit at TCS, and today he'll be speaking to us about adopting and accelerating chaos engineering and maximizing its value for organizations. And I'm sure with his wealth of experience in implementing chaos engineering and other best practices, we are in for an insightful session. So yeah, please help me in welcoming Jaiprakash to the stage. It's all yours.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Sayan. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it is visible.
Yeah. Good evening and good morning, everyone. I'm Jay. I think Sayan already introduced, and with me Abhishek is also there, but unfortunately couldn't add his name in this. So predominantly we are part of TCS. As you are aware, TCS is one of the leading global system integrators worldwide, and we focus mainly on growth and transformation for our customers and accelerating their journey in this space. So, as part of our responsibilities, we worked on chaos engineering. We build services around chaos, and basically would like to share some of our experiences, some of our learnings, and how we can enable um, accelerating chaos adoption for customers as well as enabling them to get maximizing the value of benefits from chaos. Uh, just a bit of brief. I think those earlier sessions were very good. Adrian covered a lot of things. I think Karthik also focused, but we see that there is a predominantly a big shift in the industry and big shift with all the customers with cloud native journey. I mean, that's one very big trend we are seeing. Most of the customers are launching new digital services, whether you consider financial services. We've seen digital banking, mobile banking, wallets adopted. Made available, and then there are few more services in progress, and most of them are built on distributed architectures, cloud native kind of environments. May not be on entirely on cloud, but could be a mix of on-prem and cloud. But most of them do adopt chaos engineering, or most of them do adopt the digital platforms or digital technologies in a very big way. And also the cultural change from earlier models of waterfall. We see DevSecOps as one of the very integral portion of this, and many customers which we see today look into this frequent releases, frequent testing cycles, and then we see explosion of new technologies again in various verticals. So what implication we are seeing is systems and the design or the overall landscape is now transformed in a very differential way. It's distributed. We see kind of stateless architecture. Obviously, cloud and the public cloud is one of the foundations of it. But then we see Kubernetes and microservices getting adopted along with accelerating the releases cycles or release cycles here. So the architecture is not the, it has moved from the earlier architectures which were more monoliths and more legacy to more distributed in nature. The integrations have increased. At one end, you have all your digital platforms or all your digital services, or still there are legacy or existing platforms. So there are integrations plus third-party ecosystem connects have increased drastically. So I mean, if you see, and this is also we experience with the customers where we have worked. So many services interacting with each other, and Karthik covered this well. Dependency mapping, right? Very critical element. And few customers whom we have worked, we really saw that it becomes so essential to map the dependency, understand each dependency, understand the impact it creates on the others. So, I mean, you cannot continue to do in the existing or the earlier scenarios, which were very reactive. So, resiliency cannot be run and cannot be done in a very reactive approach. It has to be done in a more proactive approach. and that is some of the barriers we see, like multiple systems and integrations, and there's a lot of uncertainty within customer digital journey. If these platforms or digital services don't come out well, or there are certain issues which are bound to be, but if there are certain issues which then uh, put up in the media, or they give a very wrong side of things or impressions, it really impacts organizations very big. And we saw this in few of the customers where we have worked. The new digital services, there were initial hiccups. The customers or the developers and the architects as well as the SREs are not very sure like how it will actually perform, right? So these are some of the barriers which we feel like in the today's customer scenarios with multiple architectures, and that's where we saw chaos engineering and as a practice which has emerged. And over last 2+ years, we have really put a lot of efforts and put up some of our best team members to work on it, and we so explore a lot of learnings when we worked with our customers and help them achieve some of the good benefits of chaos. And I think the Adrian session was also covering few of them. So as mentioned, chaos engineering, one of the practice, and actually we see it as one of the digital pillars for digital immunity. And this is a terminology which we also see most of the analysts are mentioning. And by proactively experimenting in a programmatic way, we are able to uncover the blind spots, the vulnerabilities, the weaknesses, and then put up improvement backlogs, and then work and get those improvements done, right? And then you learn more about the systems of their resilience. It's all about learning and uncovering things. And we see two key trends. One is known issues and unknown impact. This is one key outcome which we see from chaos. And unknown issues where there's no clarity, or there's no thought like how systems will work, system may not work, how the users get impacted. This is one key area. So what is chaos is a structured way of inducing failure. I think we all know that. Why part I just touched upon. Distributed customers is direct revenue losses, and we have seen this in a few of the customers where we have engaged. Criticality of the services are so heavy. There are real-time transactions, real-time transfer, real-time goods getting sold. So I mean the losses, even if certain transactions are lost, or even there is a latency, this impact could be huge. How part is where I'll just also cover some part. How do we build the plan, adoption plan, and then the value what we see with the customer, right? Improving resiliency, making it more reliable, accelerating the digital adoption, accelerating the digital journey, and then improving the customer experience. These are few of the things which we saw. So, in a short, chaos is about as the enterprises start or onboard their digital journeys, how do we uncover or learn more things about the system, the unknown elements, and as I said, the earlier approach being reactive doesn't quite work in today's digital scenario, and that's where we see this drastic shift within the customer side. I think we saw Karthik just give a brief about the key steps, but I thought it is really important to look at some of the elements of this chaos engineering, and what are the key elements that really play well. Starting with which are the critical services or applications which would be the ones to start with, because enterprises today have, and whichever customers we have, the suite of applications, front end, dependent, maybe tier 2, you can bucketize it to tier 3, and so forth. So very critical to identify the right set of apps, and then start gradually building the adoption plan. You can do multiple apps as well, but getting some smaller success really helps enticing, and that's where I think Adrian was also referring to it. Build benefits one by one. Obviously, the second point is how do you start, and there is an investment needed: sandbox, observability, load generation. I mean, these are some of the things you need to resemble your production environment. Typically, you won't go with production, but could go with a pre-prod or kind of a sandbox environment just to be really sure and sort out or identify these issues before you go further. Building hypothesis is very, very critical, and that's where we see KPIs playing a very major role. Collaboration, how do we assess the impact versus likeliness? So building backlog of different scenarios, and we saw, I think covered this well in one of his slides. How do you map the dependencies, and how do you go component by component? So it's very, very critical, and you can map this impact versus likeliness, and then build out the priorities. That's what I wish to say. Executing the experiments then is again learning, and we see the blast radius playing a very critical role. You could redo some of the experiments, define certain blast radius, and then keep changing, and ultimately uncover many things by blast radius itself. Obviously, recording and devising inference is one another step, and this is the next one we see. Recording is key because it will help to get multiple team members, multiple stakeholders really understand, and then maybe inferences can be devised. And then the final one is about creating the improvement backlog, which is very, very critical. The outcomes of chaos or the benefits of chaos comes when improvement backlog is created, and then the improvements are done. We see that agility and agile mode of working here is very, very critical. So few things which we I just briefly touched upon, like business goals, engineering goals. Your bucketization really helps. Which of the apps are the first targets? Golden metrics, very, very essential, because uh, you record those things there. And then user journey traceability. I think we already saw one of the sessions. These are very critical to understand the components, building your scenarios, and getting all your prerequisites in place. I already briefly touched upon this KPIs and all, and then I spoke this agility. So this is a brief on the chaos key steps and the process. And I'll quickly go to the one where I wish to focus is how do we build this chaos, right? The adoption journey for any customer. And we have seen most of the customers and some of the customers where we have worked also, we have worked and helped them create this plan, which is starting with, as I said, bucketizing, assessing which is the right state of applications, which are the revenue generating ones, which could be dependent. So this is a very important step of finalizing and creating their plan, looking at their business engineering goals, and then if there is a business case to be built or ROI to be built, it's this is really useful, and it is also helpful to propagate this to management. What would be done? Second key step is initiating, getting the prerequisites, uh, the metrics and all I already covered, and then building a programmatic plan. You could start with randomized chaos. I think Adrian was referring to it. That randomized chaos is just about getting some hands-on, trying to uncover a few things, and also get the learnings within the team. How do we go about this? What are the processes? What are the ways to collaborate? And then the benefit or the beauty is when you start building engineered chaos, which is putting some real thought notes in those hypotheses. As I said, impact versus what was the impact versus likeliness, right? So once you are able to build those engineered chaos, is where it would uncover many few things. And then game day propagation really important to, because in chaos and all what we have seen, collaboration is really, really useful. The application owners, the system developers, the SREs, as well as even the cloud operation engineers. I mean, they need to really collaborate. They need to start putting. So then your scenarios and your experiment maturity really improves, and your outcomes then are very differential. Integrating is the another step we see that with existing CI/CD as part of their continuous delivery or continuous release cycle, how chaos can be integrated and chaos can be triggered out of it. So once the release is developed, it is getting into the CD stage, you could do sequence of chaos test could be certain validation checks like how it behaves with CPU memory and all. We saw certain experiments, or you could do very complex scenarios also. And scoring, as we saw, very I mean that could be also one of the criterias which could be a decision maker for your release cycle, right? And it can complement the existing testing capabilities which are there, like performance testing. So it can complement it well. And the final stage which we see is productionizing it, because unless and until you productionize it, you don't get the real world events and real world scenario, right? And for that we need at least some kind of maturity or some kind of validation. So improvement backlogs which we create, at least those should be really, I think they should be addressed. We need to have certain mechanism to ensure, while blast rates and all you can control, but still we need incident processes to be mature, incident process to be validated before you do this. Maybe certain amount of precautions we need to put up, and that's where we need a complete plan for this continuous improvement. And this is a KPI we need to bring in. And then the cultural change we need to transform from the legacy or the earlier culture, which was more driven on mostly a reactive part, developers not concerned on reliability. That's a very differential change we need to bring in from that perspective. This is a brief of our experiences and how adoption could be done on chaos in a more seamless manner, going step by step, maturing, and then bringing out the maximum benefits. And then how do you accelerate the chaos engineering adoption, right? Since while one of the projects or one of the teams start, it is good to gradually then, or maybe parallelly work on it to take it to multiple teams, so that multiple teams can start leveraging this and bring about these things within their entire environments. So observability plays very key element. We saw a lot of customers. The observability gaps are huge, and getting building some purpose-built dashboards or certain golden metrics with these dashboards is very very essential. So I think first crux we saw is on accelerating adoption is build get the right state of observability, devise those customized dashboards with the relevant golden metrics or with the golden metrics, and also the other metrics. So that's very key area. KPIs are very essential, and I think we just briefly touched upon how do we define an SLO, SLI, where again we see like customers don't have much view, or their KPIs are not aligned or not updated. So that's where we need to look at the existing ones and actually update them and make it more crystal clear what is their current MTTT, MTTR, and some of those points which I have captured. Chaos tools very very essential. Obviously, they bring in a lot of benefits. There are ready to use scenarios. There are built-in API integrations, and I think that's very critical to look into uh, tools aspect of it, and getting that in place useful to start with the chaos, also scale up the chaos with multiple teams. Right? Obviously, there's some knowledge curve, but we customers today have choices to work on this. CI/CD I covered, very essential. All new build releases get validated with chaos, and then it also improves a lot of things. The new release resiliency gets highly improved, and then putting up guardrails. That's more again related to CI/CD, where organization can put up these policies of scoring mechanism or defining those guardrails, so that these releases are very I mean they are all these inherent issues get addressed before they get released. It doesn't end up making certain impact. Hypothesis backlog, very, very essential. And again, it requires, as I said, collaborative work, planning and looking at different systems, components, doing the traceability, understanding the dependencies. Unless until you define and go deep into this backlogs, your outcomes and benefits may not be, and you'll not be able to learn and uncover more about the chaos. So this very key ingredient. And collaboration and getting team members as part of game days or other exercises are very, very essential. Again, improvement backlog, that's where the organization sees the ROI for chaos. So while hypothesis backlog just defines what all scenarios or what all elements to be built, but the improvement backlog becomes more critical. And then addressing those improvements in an agile model is becoming far more important. That's where we see that this becomes one of the key pillars to drive chaos across organization. And collaboration, again, is at multiple teams, how they can interact, how they can share their learnings, the kind of experiments or scenarios they have built becomes again very vital to accelerate the adoption. So gradually you can start with one team, or you can start with multiple apps, but then how do you embed that culture? So that's where collaboration plays a very, very vital role. And then I'll just touch upon how do we maximize the value of chaos, since this was one of the elements I wish to cover. Uh, Looking at the apps and aligning with the use cases is the key and the first point which I've captured, or which I mentioned, because don't want to do chaos for certain applications which there may not be that amount of importance, or whether you are retiring those or you are in the journey of phasing them out, right? So look at your revenue generating, critical, dependent, and again align with the use cases. What is the plan? There's a new app getting created, or you're refactoring. So one of the customers, or few of the customers we have worked is, they were refactoring their applications, and there we saw a real use case where they were really not sure, like how my dependencies are there. And I'm moving on to a cloud, right? So doing it on cloud versus existing, even if it is a rehosting scenario, there again the cloud components, inherent fault tolerant features of cloud, all those need a lot of validation before one can be sure about their own architecture, right? And this is one key area we saw, that how do we align the use cases with and align with the organization plan, right? This is very critical. Planning the chaos engineering is huge. I mean, one of the key points again. You can start small. You can start with sandbox, but ultimately go to production. You may look at integrating with CI/CD pipelines and all. But this again becomes very vital. I already touched upon this backlog toolings. This plays a very key crux element. Chaos at scale becomes again very, very important, because it is not about technology, just not about tooling, just not about the metrics, but it's more about culture, bringing the teams together, working in a very differential way of looking resiliency as one key parameter, or more one of the most important elements. Earlier it was either the application functionality, or either it was the user journey, but now resiliency is as important as it. And some of the things to look at is game days, putting a concept called chaos engineer, where we have seen kind of a team built, purpose built for chaos adoption, or it could be part of SRE culture. But some of the organizations we have seen, they have started with that, and that's where we also support in few customers we have worked. Looking at an external party also helps in accelerating, getting the maximum value. And then ROI, really important, because ultimately building and showcasing ROI becomes the most important thing for any business, and business really demands what's the ROI. While chaos and all, the ROI becomes very difficult unless and until you bring out those points like improvements. How did you improve? Which elements were improved? Whether SLOs improved, error budgets improved, whether the journey got modernization journey, or my time to launch become really important, right? So these are key areas. And then we also see cloud cost optimization or TC optimization, right? That plays a very major role. So as part of our at TCS, what we have done, we've created these services, Chaos Engineering Adoption, where we have built some frameworks, accelerators, as well as some of the capabilities where we can help to bring them this value, as well as we have core SRE, which is one of our key services to help you accelerate the adoption of resiliency, chaos engineering, and bringing this up. I mean, at the earliest, or I mean, we could be more faster and speed to this, and we could maximize our value of these things. So I'll take a pause and then uh, ask if there are any questions to check. Sayan, you can suggest if there are some questions. And
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Thanks for such insightful talk. It's pretty interesting how you go deep into this and resilient it out. So yeah, there's a couple of questions. I think Abhishek is already answering most of them, and a lot of interest in the question section as well. So due to the interest in time, I'll just share one which you can answer. The remaining, if there are any more questions, I'll post them on Slack. But yeah, this is by Xavier. He's asking, what are the top KPIs that you suggest clients to monitor to ensure system in good shape for chaos adoption?
yeah, thanks, Xavier, for this question. So, top KPIs that you suggest to monitor. So, if you're looking from an observability perspective, I think the golden metrics really are very, very important. And then from a resiliency KPI perspective, we see this reliability KPIs, right? MTTD, MTTR play a very vital role, as well as your SLOs, error budget. These are the ones which really help uh, adoption of chaos. You get the impact of the chaos, and also to measure the improvements which you can then propagate chaos adoption.
Right. Got it. Okay. I hope that answers your question, Xavier. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot again, Jaiprakash, for joining and giving us such an insightful talk. Now it's like break time for all of us. We'll be taking a quick 15 minutes break. And once we are done, we have an awesome keynote, second keynote for the day by Uma. So yeah, hope to see you guys soon. Take a breather, get some rest, take a 15